Welcome to the Live with Courage podcast, the show that brings you transition tales and other guests that encourage veterans to define success for themselves. With your host, Christina Herr. Welcome to the Live with Courage podcast. I'm your host, Christina Herr. My guest today is Annie Brock with the Leader Transition Institute. Welcome to the podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Christina, for having me on today. I really appreciate it. So I am a nearly 65-year-old veteran, which I say that proudly, but that means that I just want people to know that I'm not somebody who left active duty in the last 5 or 6 or 10 years. I spent a lifetime in the military. I've had a military ID card my whole life. I was a military child, spent 10 years, nearly 10 years on active duty in the Army. Went from there to being an Air Force spouse. And so I have been active as a veteran and a combined veteran and military spouse since 1988.
Wow. No, that's great. You have so many different perspectives that you can share with the community. It's amazing.
Yeah, and what I want people to understand when they struggle now, I want them to understand how much better it is now than what it used to be. There wasn't, when I left active duty, there was no transition program. You were expected to clear when you didn't have anything else in life to do. Maybe your commander or your organization would give you time to clear, and maybe they wouldn't. But there was no preparing you for what you needed to do. And so that was a challenge. And the other thing that is so much different today is that there are so many more people who go from being a service member to being a military spouse.
Yes, I can see that.
I kind of feel like I was a unicorn in many respects back then. And I crossed services because I was an Army officer and I had spent some time as an enlisted soldier as well. But I became an Air Force spouse. And talk about being a fish out of water.
Culture shock. Yeah, definitely. Hopefully it was a positive transition.
Well, I will say that if one looks at it from the aspect of learning what not to do, it was a positive transition. I learned everything I shouldn't do because I tried all the wrong things first.
It's the best way to learn.
It is. I've really come to understand that if you get something right the first time, you don't necessarily know why that happened, and you might not be able to duplicate it. And so it's so learning from the point of screwing it up and moving forward is a good thing. And I will tell you, I always encourage people not to do what I did. And preparation is key. Number one, the reason I even was on active duty for as long as I was, 9 years and 9 months, was because when I first came to my first ETS from the Army, I didn't have a plan. And I begged to stay on active duty because I didn't know what I was going to do. And that's what I see so many people still being in that boat. They are up against their retirement for however many years, or because they're not, whether they've reached 30 years or whether they've just tapped out at their rank. They don't have a plan. They haven't thought about what they want to do next. And I think that's a positively scary thing for me to contemplate for somebody else. And it has everything to do with why they are so anxious when on top of everything else that goes on in their minds during the transition period. And that we can say that's a fault of the service member for not having that plan. But I'm going to be bold and brave here and say it's a fault of all of our military services.
I agree.
Because, well, good, thank you. When people enter the military, they expect to leave the military because that is the idea, that you would spend a period of your life in the military, and then there's more life to live on the other side of it. And we are very good in the military. From the very first moment that you join the military and you do all your financial papers, you have to designate a beneficiary for your life insurance. They encourage you prior to deployments to do a will. And the military prepares you very well to leave in a box. And what they should be doing at the same time is preparing people to leave ready to live the next part of their lives. Because for the vast majority of people, they are going to live more years post-military than they actually do on active duty.
Right.
And, because even if you leave the military after 30 years of service, so if you for our senior officers that come in the military at the age of 22 when they graduate from college, then they go on to spend 30 or even maybe some of them 35 years on active duty, that only puts them out at 52 and then 57 if they go on to 35 years because of their rank. 57. The average person now is living to 90 and beyond. So they are going to, even at leaving the military at 30 or 35 years, they are going to live more years as in that post-military life. And so we need to be actively thinking through our whole career, what is it we want to do next? But we get so sucked into being a good service member, regardless of your service, regardless of your rank. We are taking care of our team members. We are doing the mission 110%. We don't spend any time thinking about who we are individually.
I can totally see that. And from the perspective of a transition assistance trainer, because I used to teach that class, they tend to just follow the pack. So when they do go to transition out, everybody thinks they're going to be a project manager at USAA here in San Antonio. And not everybody can do that. This is something I talk about all the time, is not everybody is meant to be a project manager. Not everybody is meant to work at USAA, yet that's the pack that they're following because they don't know what they want to do. And in the military, you're told, you are indoctrinated and you go through basic training, you get core values and all these different things. But when you leave, they don't put you through the same type of environment where you get to discover who you are and what you should be doing or what you want to be doing. So what kind of challenges have you seen lately working with service members that are getting out? Like what types of experiences do you commonly see?
I commonly see two things. Number one, that service members have no earthly idea of the area in which they want to specialize. They have all kinds of skills, a plethora of skills, which is why, interestingly enough, I think that service members are ideally suited to be entrepreneurs or on a startup team, because we have, through our military careers, done a lot with a little. And we're used to working until the job gets done. I don't know how to do that, but I can learn it and I will do it. And that's what you need to start your own business or to be on a startup team. That's the kind of personality that they're looking for, somebody who will do that. And so I run into those people, or I run into people who tell me exactly what it is they want to do. And they're very frustrated when they find out that they really aren't qualified to do that in the civilian sector.
I can totally see that. I know for me, one of the challenges that I had, because I am a jack of all trades and I will learn what I need to learn to get the job done, is I actually struggled in my civilian positions because I kept stepping on people's toes because they weren't doing their job. And I'm like, well, I'll do it then. Like you're impacting my ability to do my job. So I'll just take care of it. And people get offended and they get very upset about it. It's not like being in the military where people are happy, oh, great, go do my job. That means less for me. Or, great, that's going to get us closer to the mission. So I can definitely see that being a challenge in more ways of just not knowing. But even if you pick a job, just being able to say, okay, that's not my job. That's just not in our vocabulary. So I can totally see that is a challenge. And when you talk about not being experienced or not having the qualifications, like, does that mean like their education, or just because they haven't done it in the civilian sector?
In some cases, it's because they haven't done it in the civilian sector. They may have the training, but they have no experience actually in doing it, or they have been in admin and what we call human resources in the military, and they think, oh, I want to do that in the civilian sector. Well, talk about night and day.
Yes, definitely. I'm prior personnel, so we were called human resources as well, and definitely there are differences within the military and the civilian arena for human resources. So what are service members supposed to do? Do we just start from the bottom? How hard is it to start? I mean, it's difficult to start from the bottom.
And see, and that becomes the challenge. It's this huge, what comes first, the chicken or the egg thing sometimes, is because you need to start somewhere, but then but you have so much money that you need to make for you to survive, or your family to survive. So you have an income you need to attain. And so those don't always match up. That you're not qualified to make that kind of an income in the field that you want to work in. Or what I've also seen is that some people can't get through because there's an expectation on the part of the company, because of the rank that they're coming out of the military, that they have to offer them a lot more money and than they do, because and so they don't even talk to them. And so it's really important that, and which is why it's the importance of networking, the power of networking, to get connected with people who understand and who will tell the hiring managers that you want to come in at a lower level, that you're willing to accept that lower salary to please to consider you for the position, so that you can get your feet wet. Because so many times I see people who think that they're going to walk in at an equivalent, they either know they need to start on the lower level, but they can't get their foot in the door because the hiring manager doesn't really understand that, or they think they're going to walk in at the same level they're at. And that isn't going to happen either. And so it's really important for people to come to a happy medium and understand this, but it is a challenge.
Something that I've recently noticed as far as income is I'm looking at all these fast food restaurants, and they're offering the same income that I was making as a contractor. And I have a master's degree, and I could not get anything other than what is now a fast food wage. And I don't think our wages outside of fast food in the contracting world or civilian sector are going up. So how do you think that's going to impact service members, if you have any idea on that? Like, are we just going to start working at fast food since we can make more money there than in a contract position utilizing our skills?
Well, one of the things that I tell people is that, number one, you have to do what you have to do. Okay. And that getting your feet wet in the civilian sector is sometimes, in any industry, is sometimes just a good thing to do, because it buys you time. It buys you time to adjust, and gives you time to do more networking, because so many people just when they're leaving active duty, they haven't had that time, and so a job where they aren't mentally stressed, but it's creating the income that they need to get by with their families, is not the end. In my personal experience and feeling, it's not the end of the world, because lots of people do lots of different things. And you know what? You never know what that's going to get you. You don't know what skill you're going to pick up. You don't know who you're going to meet along the way. And so I think that one of the things that I try and to tell people is to go at this with an open mind. Yes, you think exactly what it is you want to do, but maybe that's not where you are best suited. Maybe that's not the field that's open right now. Uh, Maybe you have to give up quality of life to do that, and maybe quality of life is more important, and you're willing to do something else. Uh,
So is that
because
something,
working as a contractor is almost like being on active duty.
I can see that. So is that something that you talk to service members about, what their priorities are, whether it's, job security or financial stability or, location or anything like that? Is that something you talk about as you help them prioritize?
Yeah, one of in changing focus, moving from we to me, we start with getting them to understand the mindset changes that they're going to go through, so that they aren't so bamboozled by the anxiety that they feel. When we get anxious and we don't understand why we're anxious, that just compounds itself. And so we explain to people about how their mind works, and why what's going on in their head happens, and that it's not a switch you can turn on and off. Everybody thinks you can just turn the switch, and all of a sudden you're going to be able to function in the civilian world. And that's not the way it's going to happen. And you have to expect to struggle a little bit. But then I think it's important, when you find out that that is the case, then it's a little more easy to deal with. We spend a whole day talking about individual purpose and creating a vision, and looking at all the aspects of our lives. The military, they care about our work life. They care that we're healthy. They care that our family's not in trouble. But basically, all they care about is who we are on the job. But there is so much more to us as human beings. We all have a faith life of some kind of spiritual component. We have to take care of our health. We have to take care of our personal growth. We need to take care of finances. We need to take care of personal growth. We need to take care of our families. We need to have a community of friends, a network of friends. There are so many different things that we encourage people to think about in who they are, and set some goals in all of those areas. And then we ask them to think 3 to 5 years out from where they are when they come through our sessions, and where do they want to be? What do they want to be doing? How do they see themselves? And they create a vision statement as if they are living that life in the present. And we encourage them to think big, because, who am I to tell you that you can't do what it is you think you can do, or that you want to do? And so, I'm here to give them guidance and maybe to help keep them grounded, but I have never told anybody, no, this is not possible, because I have learned that's not true. People, when they put their mind to do things, can do absolutely impossible things. So that means that it is possible. And so we do that, and then they set goals. They choose in each of those areas. They choose a goal, and they create a plan to achieve that goal, so that they have something to move forward with when they leave us. We do a communications assessment for everybody. And they learn using the DISC model of behavior. They learn where they are in that personality style, and they learn the best parts of their personality. They learn the things that can hold them back from their personality. They learn how to recognize all of that in other people. And so what good is that? Well, it helps them every day on the job. It helps them interact with their families. And the most important part for everybody who's in transition, we teach them what to look for in their interviews, in the interviewers. Because when you go in for an interview, you're going to meet with people that you've never seen before, most likely, and you have to figure out really quickly what their personality style is, so that you can communicate in a way that it is received best by them. Because somebody like me, if you come in and you're a detail person because that's your personality style, I'm not a detail person. I want to hear great stories about what you've done in your career. I want to hear the high points. Because maybe for my job that I have for you, that it's not a detail oriented thing. But if you spend all your time with me in the weeds, I'm going to go, I don't know. But if I'm a detail person and you don't give me details, then I'm going to be asking you questions and I'm going to be picking at you, and that's going to make it really uncomfortable. And so if you can recognize another person's personality style cues with just looking at them, with just the kind of introductory chatting that typically happens in an interview, you can own that interview. And that's really important. One of the things that we've been finding too in talking to people is that they are not as well financially prepared as we would like to see them.
I can
And so
totally see that.
we do a 2-hour discussion. We call it the dollars and cents, the SENSE of transition. And that is a top of the waves of the things that you need to think about moving into transition. We talk about the gap that's going to need to be filled, the gap in your bank account, and talk about filing for a VA claim that, about when to get started and that kind of thing. We talk about health benefits. We talk about creating a budget, knowing what money's coming in and out of your checkbook or your bank account every month. And then so that you know what it is you have to replace. Because if you haven't thought about it, you just have that money coming in every month, but you don't know what goes out, then you have no idea when somebody says what kind of a salary range, you don't know what you need to ask for. And so we go over all of that, and they actually do an assessment on their financial behaviors and attitudes, so they get a feel for who they are from a financial point of view too. And what I forgot to mention in the communications assessment is that we also have one component of that report, because we just switched that report recently. It's a combined report. Not only does it tell them about their communication style, but it also tells them where on a team, the position on a team that they are happiest filling, whether that's the strategizer, whether that's the person who's doing the work, whether that's the leader, whether that's the supporter, because all of that plays into the kinds of jobs that they're going to look for on a team. And we spend as all of Sunday morning talking about living intentionally, living a life of purpose, that it's not all about just filling the bank account.
You are so speaking my language. This is definitely stuff that I focus on when I work with transitioning service members as well. And it makes me so happy that there are others out there doing this kind of work, because we want people to have these joyous lives, and they can't have that if they don't know what their purpose is, if they don't know what their priorities are, if they don't understand themselves. It's all a balance in life, and to have that joy. This just sounds really amazing. If somebody was interested in the program, how would they sign up, and what does it take to be a part of the program?
So what it takes to be a part of the program is to be a active duty service member or a veteran from any era, or a military spouse. That's all it takes. And so we've had some people come through the program lately that are 3 or 4 years out from transition, which is really exciting. But more commonly, they're in that last year, or they just got out. And you just go to our website. We're at www, because I haven't figured out how to make that go away yet on our link, leadertransitioninstitute.org. And if you'll go there to our website, you'll see the Changing Focus tab, and you can find out right there when our next sessions are. We have 2 more sessions coming up. We have one this month, and it's already closed out, but we have one in November. It's November the 18th through the 21st. We do a Thursday night through Sunday noon for our sessions, designed specifically that way that people only have to ask for Friday off from work.
Wow, that's really smart.
Some people aren't a fan of it. They've said, well, couldn't you break it up over a couple of weekends and just do it on a weekend? But it's just our experience that we need to get it all done at once. But I'm not so smart. Actually, I was in another program when I came up with the idea for our program, and it used that same format. And I thought, that's really smart. Only a day off from work. And so we've been to a couple of military installations where they have they don't want us to run it that way. And so We've gone to Fort Bragg and to Hurlburt Field and been asked to do it Monday through Thursday. We still start on Monday night then, if we're going to do it that way, and finish Thursday at noon, because that timing, the sequencing of the program is just what works best for the sequence, for that.
You've done this program at Herbie, huh? That's my old stomping grounds.
That was our third live session, yes, in
awesome.
January of 2019. Yeah,
I spent 11 years there. I love that.
Oh.
I love that community. I miss them so much. They're definitely a big
we
part
were
of my
there
heart.
for 6.5 years. That was the first place we went after we were married and I got off active duty, because we were in Germany when we got married, and then my husband had a couple more months, so we sat there and then spent 6.5 years at Eglin and lived right between Eglin and Hurlburt. So
beautiful area.
Great place.
It is. Yeah. So I'm going to let you have the final words. And I want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast with me and sharing this amazing information. And I will definitely encourage anybody that I come across to check out the Leader Transition Institute. So do you have any final words for us?
Don't wait. Plan for your transition, because you are important. Who you are as a person is important, and you want all of those years in the rest of your life to be great, and you are in control of it. So just step out and take as good a care of yourself as you've been taking care of your team.